some of the new released features of Flutter 3.13 that came out yesterday, since everyone's here. And some of them actually would involve the Wow Shopping app. So I figured this is a good chance to kind of explore some of these features. All right, I'll share a screen here. Hopefully, see if this comes across. Hopefully. Everyone getting that? Hopefully. And like Hump Day Part 2, yeah, indeed. So I've had time now to upgrade. So all right, so let's just talk a bit about 3.13 and what's come up in this, and then we can see maybe how we can apply some of this to the Wow Shopping app. So yeah, so I won't go through the article. I'll post the article link in the chat here so that people can spend some time looking at some of this stuff. Obviously, lots of this involves general Flutter stuff and everything across the board in terms of fidelity and performance and some other things. So highly recommend reading it. We've got some new foldable APIs, which goes into this new display object, which now means that this kind of goes towards the notion that soon we'll be seeing Flutter for desktop and Flutter for desktop in terms of sorry, Flutter multi-window, should I be clear? Sorry. And that means that we need to know if there's multiple Flutter views. That's each one of your windows would be a Flutter view. That's what this is all about. Each one has its own view hierarchy essentially, and a display is sort of attached to that, as in which screen your Flutter view is attached to, because each screen will have possibly a different refresh rate or device pixel ratio or physical size. So that's just something to kind of let people know about. And yeah, and part of this is the fact that, obviously for foldable displays, you need to know about the two different displays on the foldable device, and that kind of revolves around this. We've got material adaptations and things that have been added here. So that's like now making Material 3 the default. We've got apparently this character recognition, which I thought was quite interesting. I don't use iOS personally, but this is kind of cool. So now there's support for this kind of, apparently you can enter text using a photo on iOS or using a camera. So that's kind of cool. I don't know what application it has, but I suppose maybe filling out forms or something like that. I don't know.
I think it could be used quite a number of times. Google Translate do that, no? Sometimes.
True. Yeah. But again, that's just basically integrating a platform feature of iOS into it. So this isn't necessarily going to be available on Android, if that kind of makes sense. Just to be clear, the OCR is actually being performed by the platform itself, not by Flutter. We've got adaptive dialogues. So something I've been looking for some time. Pretty much every Flutter app I make, I end up having to write either use one of the libraries, which gives us some limitations around this. Chameleon, I think, was one that's been around a while. And now they've actually made this adaptive constructor on alert dialog. And in doing so, it basically just instantiates a Cupertino alert dialog or a Material alert dialog, depending. So again, really helpful, because on iOS, you want to display this dialog because that's what people are used to, whereas on Android, these are the Material design style. There's some other Cupertino, that's the app. So for the people that don't know, Cupertino is like the Apple styles for Flutter. They've made some other improvements around that. This one is one I've also wanted for a long time, and that is whenever you're doing custom forms or form behavior, previously the Material widgets for input would only allow you to do the Material design style of input error, which is red text, and you change the underline of the input field to red. That's kind of like the default behavior of an input decoration. Now, apparently, you can specify a widget for the error, which means you can do whatever you want. You can display whatever widgets you want underneath the field to display an error. So that's really helpful, especially when you have unique designs for your provided by your designer for error handling and so on. Now you can do them with these. Tooltips, we got material gaps on gap size on expandable tiles, track outline, various other UI performance improvements, colored chips, elevate chips. The app lifecycle listener is interesting. So for those that don't know, this is a new widget. Let's see if I can get this up in here. So you've always been able to listen to the app's lifecycle, to be clear, but it involved essentially making your own widget, and then it's in its state registering a widget observer, and then freeing that up into unregistering and dispose. But this just nicely highlights the life cycle of your application and what it can go through. And then you can also listen to that in the widget hierarchy, which again helps you sort of deal with specific scenarios. In this case, you start in a detached state, you get resumed, you can become inactive when something gets displayed on top. So a good example, just want to be clear about this life cycle. So for example, if you did Google login, Google sign in, you would get like the Google prompt for choosing an account. That is not within your application. That is secure. That's in the Google, I think it's in the Play Services application. That activity exists on Android. So what happens is your Flutter app becomes inactive when that is displayed on top, and it's partially visible. So if, however, you were to let's say pick a photo picker or the photo gallery, you would be transitioned into this. You go to inactive and then to hidden. That's because now your entire Flutter activity, your entire Flutter view is now completely obscured by the photo picker. Now your app is still not paused, it's still running, but it's behind, if that kind of makes sense. However, if there was a point then after that you maybe press the home button, or you were in visible and you went to press the home button, which puts your app in the background, then you become paused. And then at some point in the future, if your app is terminated by the operating system, so it's no longer running in the background, become detached. And that's kind of like the life cycle of your application, and kind of just to give you kind of like that kind of example. So for those that don't understand that's what that's about, and now you can listen to it in the UI, which is quite handy. All right, what else do we have here? Scrolling, two-dimensional scrolling foundation. So there's been quite a lot of work around supporting two-dimensional scrolling. If anyone's tried this themselves, it involves having two different scroll controllers and various other things to kind of get both axes scrolling. And it's not the whole sort of base framework is not designed around that notion of two-dimensional scrolling. So what they've done is they've I've forgotten her name. One of the developers on the Flutter team, she's gone ahead and she's been working on this for quite some time, and they got a lot of feedback. And basically, they've now made a series of views. So you've actually had in the framework for some time, we've had what's called viewport. Viewport is the base widget that all slivers uses to display content. And this is like your viewport into the scrollable region. And this has been around a long time, but now we have a two-dimensional viewport, which is the two-dimensional version of this. That's what this base widget is here, two-dimensional viewport. So it's basically the same as viewport, but works in 2 dimensions and provides the parameters for both horizontal and vertical. This also goes then into scrollable and scroll view. We've had scrollable and scroll view as widgets for 1-dimensional scrolling. Now we have 2-dimensional versions of the same thing. And sort of that, on top of that, we now get child delegate, and child delegate is around, again, if I show you, let's say, grid, sliver list. So underneath a list view uses a scrollable and a viewport, and it actually puts a sliver list inside the viewport. If it loads, there we go. Sliver list is essentially what all lists and all those kind of standard list view and everything else uses. And the way this works is that you provide a sliver child delegate, and this is like a function that helps manage the children and how to construct the children that are expected to be displayed inside of your viewport. There's 2 base implementations, which is child builder and list builder. The child builder one is one that is standard list view.builder. That's what it uses. And then you've got a list view that you pass in a fixed set of children or child widgets, and that's child list. And that's been around. Again, this is fundamental. That's been around in the underlying workings of the framework for some time. And again, now if you go back to the thing, we've now got two-dimensional versions of these. And to sort of, again, sort of handle the aspect of having two dimensions, we now have child vicinity. And this sort of essentially keeps track of the X and Y position of something, of a child within the viewport. So that helps sort of cache things and deal with that kind of practice. So all of these together kind of gives us this two-dimensional scrolling, which there's particular use cases where this is helpful. A good example of this is things like, I think what we've had a while, what's the package? Data table. So part of material design is to support tables, and that's like this kind of table, the sort of things you might think of as spreadsheet. And with something like this, it's always been problematic if you want to do two-dimensional scrolling and have it nicely recycling. So again, the two-dimensional scroll viewport stuff lets you do that kind of nice interactions. So that's great. Let's see, what else do we have here? New slivers. This is the bit I'm kind of, I'll be honest with you, all the rest is great, but this is the bit that really excites me, and it's because these are the things that I've wanted for a long time, and they're finally made their way to the framework. So we're going to experiment with some of these today. I think that'd be really good. But there is actually a great dartpad example. If you want to run the example, they've announced that they've now got 3.13 as the stable on there. I was going to say you have to select beta. You've had to do that for a while. So this is a notion of using these. Let's see if I can get this split nicely. So again, this example is you're doing your slivers. You can have a main axis group, essentially a grouping. So this is, think of main axis group as column, and think of cross axis group as row. Now, that's only if you're scrolling vertically. If you're scrolling horizontally, then sliver main axis group would be a row, because it's the main axis of scroll, and then the cross axis would be row instead, right? Because it's the opposing axis instead. So that's the, if I got that right, row, column, column, row. Basically, they flip around. So that's the reason why the naming is not row and column, because they're always going to, they're relative to the axis of scroll, not to the axis of display. So in this case, you can see here, main axis group, we have a sliver persistent header, a padded decorated list here. And then we have another main axis group with another padded section called section 2, persistent header with section 2, followed by a sliver cross axis group with three slivers inside that. So we'll see this on the right hand here. If I was to drag our scroll bar, we've got section 1, and you can see the persistent header working there at the top. It stays there because it's got the pinning enabled. And when we scroll down, and the background, by the way, this background that's behind everything is painted on by this sliver decorated sliver, sorry, with a box decoration. Again, I wanted this in the Wow Shopping app so we could do some of the separators and some of the drawing in the background. And it's a lot easier to do. And you just put in any box decoration or any decoration at all. That means you can also do custom decorations, and again achieve the same effect. So so over here on the right, we've got that kind of grouping at the top. Here's section 1 to section 2, and you can see here the persistent header gets pushed off as the section 2 header comes on. So you've got sticky headers all built into the framework now. No need for external packages. So my package is now going to be deprecated. I made a sticky headers package that's been around a good few years. So I'm going to post a deprecation or maybe use this under the hood or something like that. But suggest to be basically people use the one that's built into the framework. The main axis, this cross axis group is what you see here on the right. So we've got our persistent header 2, followed by a sliver constrained cross axis. So by default, the cross axis when you're doing slivers is the full width of the opposing constraint. So if you're scrolling vertically, then the cross axis is horizontal. So the only way to really constrain that when it comes down to slivers was to essentially override that behavior, wrapping it down. And that's exactly what this does. So it's a really simple widget. You just wrap and say, I want you to be this wide. And you can see here now the first column essentially is limited to 100 wide. Then we have a cross-axis expanded here. And again, this acts the same as expanded in rows and columns. And this allows us to put, again, an amount attached to this widget here. In fact, this should work exactly the same with a flex factor of 1. So if I run this, we'll find out. It should look exactly the same. Yep, nothing changed. That's good. Oh, hang on. There we go. Let's scroll. Dun, dun, dun. It failed because of something. Either I found a bug or I don't know how this works. Probably the latter. So this should fill the remaining space left over by the flex factor. This may work differently. Let's have a look actually and see if there's the documentation. So should be using the sliver cross section. All slivers with null or 0 flex are laid out, and we should determine their own geometry and the remaining space is filled out. Okay, so I'm assuming that because this doesn't have, the right hand side doesn't have a constrained box, so constrained cross axis around it, then it's got a default flex of 1. So if we were to wrap, let's have a look. Let's wrap that with 100. Then we should end up with apparently an error. There we go. Error compiling to JavaScript. Let's see if that compiles. Scroll down. Yeah, there we go. So even though it says a flex factor of 1, the remaining space from all the constrained axes is now left over to the center one. So if it makes it wider, it's the center that actually changes its size. Whereas if we had 2 here, this would be a 2-to-1 ratio. So there'd be 2/3 and 1/3. For those that are not familiar with this, I think go look up on the documentation on rows and columns. It has quite a lot on this. It essentially acts the same way. But yeah, so now the right hand side also expands to 1/3 of the remaining space. So it's this remaining space in the cross axis split to 1/3 and 2/3. All right. Okay, so that's some of the new widgets that have been sort of thrown around for slivers. Let's go back to that article and see what we can find. It kind of covers a bunch of this and the demo. We've got accessibility. So the O and I have come in. New support targets. That's lovely. Reduced distortion and rotations. These are all good updates on the life and compatibility of Flutter. Renaming of runner. This has always been a problem in Xcode. People rename it and then their project breaks. They don't know why. Now you can actually officially rename it. It won't be a problem. It's because the tooling is required to try and find it, and it didn't have a way of identifying it other than its name originally. So I guess they've worked our way around that and fixed it. And then there's also prep now for Xcode 15 and iOS 17. So if you you need to be on Flutter 3.13, and then you can then be using Xcode 15. So that's, again, quite important if you're using, if you upgrade. So I think Xcode 15 is in beta. But yeah, if you upgrade to the beta one, which I don't think you should, just let you know, problems happen when you're using beta software, just FYI. and so you're preparing for iOS 17 there. This does say make sure you download iOS 17 simulator. So as soon as you get your Xcode 15, you're going to need an iOS 17 simulator. There is actually a derived data directory in Macs that when you're running Xcode, that contains all your simulators for older versions. In Xcode, if you go to the window menu, you can select, I think it's devices and organizer or something like that, devices and simulators. It allows you to delete the old ones. So that's also something you might want to think about, because suddenly you might notice a lot of space is disappearing when you start installing lots of versions of iOS. We have the games framework, new tooling features, some breaking changes, nothing too breaking, better ways to triage. So yeah, that's great. And then the Dart 3.1 article goes into is worth reading for those that want to understand a bit more about pattern matching and the new Dart 3 features. And this really goes into a lot of that. They fix some bugs around pattern matching basically, and the class types and and really goes in depth around how all of this kind of stuff works. There's no point going through it right now, but how the new syntax works and a bunch of stuff around that. So, all right, that I think covers, for the most part, what's in the how am I doing? It's not sliver cross-access script. Is there not linked to main access? Should be. There it is. So I'm going to have a play around with these slivers. I haven't had a chance yet, and it actually these were issues that we found when we were trying to do some of these screens, and we didn't have these widgets. So hopefully, given that we now have them, we can actually try these out. So let's give that a go, I guess. Let's see if there's any questions. Feel free to use the chat. How would you approach to make the promotion horizontal list snapping on swiping? Oh, this top bit you mean? Oh yeah, it does snap at the moment, doesn't it? Yeah, it snaps at the moment. I mean, I'm not. If I stop, it snaps back, and if I go over, it snaps to the right way. Perhaps you can explain a bit more what you're asking about there. Sliver tools, yeah, Sliver tools package has been around a while. This works with Sliver fill remaining. Yep. All the Sliver stuff works together. All right. So those that have been in the box, we've been working on building as part of this dev camp, working on the same sort of code base. So if you haven't forked the repo, there's a GitHub. I'll get the GitHub reference for the chat. Oh, hang on. Okay, so that should be in the chat for those that don't know about it. So basically, also the design link is now in the Slack channel, a link to the Slack channel. So if you guys want to browse these designs and kind of zoom in and look around and I don't know, do whatever you want, the link is in the Slack channel. So, okay, so looking at this home screen, going back to what we were trying to do before, one of the problems we had was that we needed to separate top selling items from the grid below, right? And also we have this it's quite hard to see on here, but we have a little sort of dark divider that separates these two sections. And again, that was pretty difficult to kind of get sort of working without, having slivers doing the nice recycling that we want without the features that we now have. So let's try and do a bit of refactoring on the home screen, and maybe we can finish off doing these views below on the home screen. Unless there's anything else anyone wants us to tackle. For those that don't know, we did continue some of this on the live stream, and this is pushed into the repo. So there's a way now of adding stuff to your cart. And if we buy something in the cart, I'm just going to add a bunch of these. I don't know. It doesn't increase the quantities at the moment, but they pop up. So if I delete them, and they're persisted as well. So if you come back to the app, they're still in your cart. We don't do options, which are these sizes at the moment. There's no sort of options for that, but it's all in there and working. So that's a good starting point. We still have the count screen that's blank, but we have favorites or the wish list, sorry, all working, and category still needs a little bit of work. And again, the new stuff we're working on could actually help with that. That could also improve our the inner workings of the expanded lists. Was expanded? Can't remember what I even called it now. Slip expansion tile. This code that's in here, it's very much. It was very much split out into these two components of header and content. So wherever we used them, let's choose the categories page here. We had to kind of wrap them and use them individually, and then what you end up doing is having these widgets so they can be flatlined. But now what we can actually do with the grouping should be to group these together, and it means we don't even need any of this going on. So we're going to try that right now and see if we can get the main access grouping working on the category page, and I guess we'll switch back over the home page and try and do the same there. So let's have a look here. Apologies, 1 second. Cool. So let's try this out. So let's create a stateless sliver category group. I don't know, sounds good. And we'll want the same category item attached to it. And then this wants to return back a sliver. What do we call it? A sliver main axis group with a set of slivers. I mean, this is how simple it goes, right? And then instead of actually having these two widgets, we can now bring these ones up. So let's bring up our sliver expansion tile into here. I think when we were developing this, we actually had a bug where we forgot to mention the same section or something. So this, again, avoids that kind of thing of having to repeat the parameters and makes the code more stable, for want of a better word. It's this simple, right? So now we're grouping them together. We couldn't do this before. So now they're grouped together. Do we have any parameters? Oh, no need. Okay. So now we can put category group. Oops, sorry. Jumping around. Right, there we go. We can get rid of the need to do this extra list and expansion. So restart. And hopefully it still works. Yay. I know this doesn't seem like much, but ooh. Oh, do you guys see that at the top? Oh, that's interesting. I think I'm going to have to report a bug. So that's actually kind of cool. I have to say this because what you're actually seeing is the recycling taking place. So what's happening here is when it goes up, that global view, once it goes out of, so you can see where the edges here underneath, when this global view goes completely out of view, it disappears. And what's actually happening, it gets put down the bottom and it gets this title changed and it now gets reused. And that is literally how recycling works. So it looks to me like even the individual rows, this is what we wanted. This is why I wanted to do this. Each of the individual rows of our grid view, if we had like 100 items in the category, they would nicely be recycled. You can see where the items actually disappear there when it scrolls off the screen. So that's actually great, but not what we were looking for. So question is, can we force clipping on this in some fashion without doing something custom? So it seems to me like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it didn't say it's going to clip, but there's no clipping parameter here, and it was clipping before. So how can we do this? Well, let's just try the obvious, clip rect. I have a feeling that clip rect does a box, is a render box. Let's have a look. It can only blow up. Yep, it blew up. Right. Yeah, there we go. So I kind of knew that was going to happen, but worth trying. So how can we solve this is the next question. Right. Well, we don't want to put we could, since we want to clip not on the item level, but on the entire scroll view. Oh, wait, does this have clipping? Oh, it does. Look at that. Oh, that's interesting. So in effect, we can actually use hard edge. Hard edge is slightly more optimal, but you won't get like on something shaped round, you would want the anti-aliased. If it's a straight edge like this, hard edge is better. And that should, if we go back to the category page, we have found a bug in 3.13. Oh dear. So that's really interesting. What happens if we put clip rect around that? Yeah, I mean, like, there we go. Okay, so, all right, let's, I guess it's time to file a bug. Let's find out. We need to make a minimum reproducing example. Does everyone want to be, should we file a bug with everyone right now? Are people interested? and what we need to do this? Yes, I got some yeses. All right, we're doing it then. No one said no, so tough luck if you if you want to know. All right, so first of all, we go to Flutter. We find the issue tickets, and we want to say, well, we know where the problem exists. The problem exists with using Sliver main access group and clipping. So let's say clip. Let's see what comes up. Nope. Clipping. Nope. Sliver. Let's do 313. Do we have a tag for 313? Probably not. 313 clipping. See if anyone else is. I'm doing this. So first, the thing you need to do when you're ever looking for an issue is find out if someone else has filed your issue first, because then it will save you a lot of time and effort, and you can put a thumbs up on that one or comment on it to boost it, right? So I can't think of what else I would say here. Maybe custom scroll view. See if anyone's mentioned custom scroll view recently. Waiting in triage. When was this? Last week. We could definitely take a look at that. Sliver child is created before it's shown in viewport. No. And then width property, shrink wrap. All right. Well, I'm not seeing anything obvious there. This is ordered by recently. This is ordered by. So. Recently updated. Maybe I should post my Sliver stuff to solve this one. More efficient expansion panel stuff. Oh, this is there she is. Kate Lovett was the person who did the two-dimensional scrolling. Sorry, Kate, I forgot your name. Anyway, looks like they've done this. Do you know what I'm going to do? Having Sliver equipments would be ease a lot of the pain for users. Yes. Okay. So I am going to sneakily throw something in. I'm going to throw, in fact, I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to push. Can we do Sliver groups? I guess we could. So tell you what we're going to do. We're going to extend our stuff right now to use the new grouping, and then we'll push the code and I'll post that, and then we'll come back and do the bug fix. So what we're missing right now is we split the title and header into two slivers on purpose, because to deal with oh, there is a live stream. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. So I think we need to give her a new title, Sliver Queen. Do you think that works? She's gonna watch this and be I hope she laughs. Right. Okay, so I think we can possibly just incorporate these two things together. Where are we? Title content, Sliver builder. Basically, I'm just going to combine these two things into one using the new widget, which is always fun. And we'll call this content builder. Oops. Oh my goodness. Content builder and header builder. And oh my goodness. Right, content builder. And then we can use our newfound Sliver main access group to bring them together. Expansion pile, header. And we want tile content. The reason why I'm leaving the other two, by the way, exactly as they are, and not just making one widget out of all of this, is because it gives you flexibility to use pre-313 and post 313. Maybe, I don't know. Let's leave it as it is. Right. Header builder, content. Oh yeah, sliver builder. Let's go to content. Content. Oh, right. Okay, so now we've got a sliver expansion tile. We go back to the categories page. This ends up being a sliver expansion tile with a header builder. Let's just bring this over. This is header builder. And then we also need a content builder. Get rid of that. Wait, notice this. Wait, what have I done? You've got parameter 1, parameter 2. Oh, even one more level. That's even better. Right. So now we have a sliver expansion tile, which can have a header and content, however you want. Let's restart, make sure it works. Cool. And I'm going to find, let's push that code. Bear with me 1 second. Just share again. That coming through for everyone? Let me know if you can't see it. So I'm adding, what we're saying, we're going to add dependency on 313, add, that's a 313, and use, oh, who is that? Was it sliver, lost it now already, sliver main access group for sliver expansion tile. Cool. Let's push that. Cool. Cool. Now I should be able to refer to that. I refer to the committed version. Files. So I'm just gonna dig out this reference to our sliver expansion group. So this should have the changes we just made. Let's have a look. Sliver expansion tile. Yep. Cool. So let's grab that, and I'm gonna. Which was it? This one? Yeah. Was working. I've been working on a dev camp. Was a dev camp. We needed expansion tiles, but as slivers. So I made it. C code below. It's a reasonable starting point for possible future inclusion into the framework. Perhaps we can chat about where this could be taken next. Yeah. Comment. Cool. All right. So that was completely off topic, but at least it's done. We don't have an overflow. I don't think that's related. All right, so we can't find an issue. What do we do next? We make a new issue. New issue. And we are going to be reporting a bug. And we can actually report the bug existing in this code base on this commit. So if we get rid of our clip rect, we should experience that bug, right? Let's go back. There it is. And I guess we're going to need to record this, aren't we? So we can put like a video or something in there to show it work, show the problem. All right, so the problem is in, we have a component. So if we, I guess the sliver, we can just note down that it's, what do we call it? Sliver cross axis main group, whatever it is. Sliver main axis group. Is that part of widget slivers? All right. So let's say clipping issue with on flutter 3.13. Slivers not being clipped in custom scroll view with sliver main axis group on features. I think it's about descriptive as I want to make that. I don't want to put too much in the title. I have searched existing issues. I have read the guide. Okay. Step to reproduce. Okay, so it's not like ABC, right? This can also be like an example, and then we have our expected results and our actual results, right? So in this case, we want a small example that we can show off and put in the code base. And I could put a link to this code. If the commit gets overwritten, it goes a bit wonky then. So let's add, I'm just going to add a quick file, and we'll say clipping bug dot. If we can't reproduce it like this, then we know it's maybe a problem, not just with that, but with something else, right? But let's do a little example that shows what the problem is. So we want a piece of material. Always a good start. And then a custom scroll view. And we have our slivers inside. We have a sliver main axis group. That contains a sliver list builder. It's going to have a list tile. So for those that are not following on about this need for the main axis group, just do snippet box adapter. What was this child heading? We'll put something else in there just to differentiate the items. And we want to count, item count. Did not item count? I think we can do like an infinite, can't we? What's the issue here? Oh, comma. All right, and then title, yeah. Item index. I think that's like should be a working example of this. I mean, I can't think of anything else that we've done that would cause a problem. I mean, we do have, let's go take a look. It happened with the headers. And let's go look at what the header does to make sure we're not. Sliver to box adapter, intrinsic height, material, inkwell. Maybe it's because there's a material in there. Maybe that's it. It should clip though. If I put clipping up here, there's no reason why clip should not work. By default, I think it clips. That's a good question, actually. Yeah, hard edge is the default. That's what I thought. So default, let's just be clear. All right, and then let's put our list item on a material and our heading on a material. We'll put padding around this. Symmetric. Let's go a. Hopefully everyone can see all this stuff, right? I did make my font larger, so hopefully you're getting it all. Please let me know if you've got any problems. All right, so now we've got our reproduction. Let's see if it runs. Let's run that on our device. And if this reproduces, let me put this down as our steps. Oh yeah, Ruben, thanks for sticking around. Yeah, head off. Is that like just record it? All right, go sleep. You can watch this later if you want to watch it. Thanks for everyone that turned up. All right. Does it reproduce? That is the question. Well, we can't reproduce like this because we need to add some padding, right? We need to show that it goes over the edge. So let's put our color black. No, let's do red. And then padding vertical, symmetric vertical 72. Hot restart. Hot reload won't work in this case because we're explicitly calling out this widget in the tree, and there's nothing to rebuild at this level. Anyway, I just want to let people know if that's a thing you're wondering. Right, let's wrap this in a. No, let's do that. So let's make this even higher. 128. Huge amount. Hot restart. Cool. And yeah. That's definitely not how it should be. Okay, let's copy that. We have our reproducible example. Preview. Lovely. And let's load new or find a simple example of the issue. We should put can I put something in here that won't clip? Let's wrap it in a decorated box. So we really want to show the edges, so show it's going outside the edges, right? Position. Let's paint this in the foreground on top. And then the decoration is just going to be a box decoration with a border. So we can actually see the all colors dot blue, width 3, something like that. Really make it stick out. There we go. And there you go. You can really see it going outside the borders now where it shouldn't. You will see how the recycling is working. It's quite cool. If you wanted to, actually, I'm kind of curious. If we put cache extend and put maybe 72. Oh, no, it's not being that's quite clever. It is actually caching them further, but it's not rendering them because it knows it's not completely in view. Anyway, right. Let's copy that example and update our issue. Okay, and we can then state. I have code sample. Maybe let's move this down to code sample. and then we'll write up in there. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's do that. Paste. Cool. This is just nice. So this does like a little expanding section, right? So people aren't like lots to scroll through, right? All right. So below you'll find the code sample shows a simple list using a custom using a cross-access sliver main access group. When this group is removed, we just show the sliver list. Okay, I should really explain expected results, actual results. Steps to reproduce. I can just say run the code sample below, and you will see. So I'll rewrite this. You will see that the list items are not clipped by the custom scroll view when using sliver main access group. Right? I mean, that's what it is. Expected results. The custom scroll view should adhere to its clip behavior parameter, to its clip behavior parameter, and clip its content. And results, I know this sounds stupid, but it's good to like lay it out, right? The reason why we do this is that you can read it step by step and go, okay, it's doing this, it should be doing that. It's very clear, not just some chatty. If you just to do like file an issue and just be paragraphs of chatty talk, sometimes for maybe non-English speakers as well, it's very hard to kind of grasp exactly what is the problem and what should be expected, what the user expects to happen, right? The developer. So laying it out like this it may seem a bit superfluous, but it actually does make it a lot easier to triage and debug these things. Custom view should be clipping its content. Screenshot of video, we'll put one in there, and we'll fill out the log stuff in a minute. I think I want to put some more description in steps to reproduce and stating that wrapping the custom scroll view in a clipped rect is a workaround at present, but adds an extra clip layer to the adds an extra clip layer. It's a clip layer actually. I think that's the object. Why not? Let's look it up. Ooh, it's not. It's transform layer. The transform layer. I forget. Clip rect layer. There you go. That's close. That's close. Removing the access group, which it makes the problem also go away. We'll just confirm that because I'm assuming that, right? So we haven't got our clip rect, so let's get rid of our main access group by just taking these two slivers and putting them into the area above. Restart, see how it behaves. There we go, properly clipped. So it definitely exists only when using the new widget, which is kind of, we suddenly get this different behavior, and that's why. It's a workaround present as a click right removes makes the widget problem also go away. This explains that the issue is relates to the new widget and custom scroll view. Okay. What else? We got a code snippet. I'm gonna undo that. I've done a change. Let's see if we can capture a video of this. What is the best way of doing this? I wonder. Have a disconnect. Have a little application which I'm running. I wonder if I can actually grab it though. Let's see. I forget how to do it. Sorry, bear with me. For those I'm using screen copy, so I'm using screen copy, which is the application running here on the left, and it has a record capability. If I can remember what the buttons are, bit rate, blah blah blah. I'm sure that's a record function. I'm pretty sure it's a record function, or maybe there's a. Do you know what? I'm not sure if it does. All right, let's. Screen. I think it's called screen record. Hang on. Must specify an output file. Okay, so the device has a screen record the device displays an MP4 file, which is nice, but it's not the easiest way to do it. ADB screen record. Google to the rescue. I'm pretty sure you can. Sorry, give me 1 second. That's the one. That's the one I was looking for. All right. So I should be able to do ADB exec out screen record bit rate. Let's go for a high bit rate. 16 meg output format. H.264. That's like MP4. It's complicated. There's also another codec. That's the codec anyway. I don't really want a time limit. Right, so I should, if I direct the output to a file, output.mp4. That did not work. What went wrong? Specify help. Must specify output file. Hyphen output.mp4. Right. Here we go. Scroll, scroll, scroll. And then A, C, C, X. All right, one of them. Right. Okay, we have the file. Again, 1 second. I've What is that? That's C drive users. Something. Okay. That is not my downloads folder. That's why that didn't work. All right. Did it work? It did not. We've got a lovely 2 megabyte file of nothing. All right. Let's try one last time. Let's get rid of output for that and see what happens. It just errored. All right. Let's try this one last time. And we're doing the file system. All right. I think that's going to work now. Let's see. Okay. And then for those who are just wondering what I was doing, sorry, I was doing off screen. For some reason, it didn't want to output, so I just done ADB shell record. We record it to the device SD card, or essentially the storage, and then pull that from the storage down to the local device. And hopefully, it failed again. Oh, wonderful. No, much luckier, am I? I wonder if it's because I need to put like time limit on. Control C to stop. Oh, that one worked. Okay, that's good. There's the file. Finally, a file. Feel my pain, everyone? Good. All right, upload media. So hopefully drag and drop. Will that work? Apparently it does. Okay. Preview. Wonderful. No logs needed. Let's get rid of that. And then we want our doctor output. So we need to run flutter doctor-v. This is they obviously can check out. Again, very important that you do this, right? So this is so that when it comes down to them looking at it, they can go look at the engine revision. They can go check out the exact revision of Flutter and experience the same bug. For example, let's say some time passed and they release a new version, it might be fixed then. In which case they're like, well, I can't replicate the issue, but was it an issue? Did it get fixed by accident? So it's very important that that you note down all of the information you're going to get out of the old Flutter Doctor-V, and there's nothing you need to worry about in terms of like just versions of software, right? So yeah. Oops. Right. Pop that in there. And away we go. Double check. Titled. Do we have any labels for release 313 or something? Found in release 313. Okay. Cool. Submit. There you go. Now everyone can go thumbs up the issue. We found it live. Oh, I could actually let's just do one little thing here. All these, let's put little back ticks around these so that we can. That's how just so that it stands out as the class names. And then I'm going to go over to the Discord and just fly this over to the frameworks channel. to think it's a priority issue for them to fix. Do I have Discord running? Apparently I don't have updates. Well, whilst that's doing that, let's carry on with what we're doing. So we've got a workaround. Don't need that anymore. So the ticket, let's delete that. And the workaround was a flip rect. Rect. All right. Just do that. Let's run it up again. All right. So back to where we were. All right. So let's see. Home screen. Should we do that? Does everyone want to stop? Do we want to continue? Any answer now? I have to poke the Discord later. Thank you very much for thumbing up. So see that people have actually been finding. Oh look, screen copy. You can actually do it all in. That's great. I didn't even know that plugin existed. I'll look that one up. Thank you. Pop that over there for my reading later. Oh look, there is a recording. I knew there was a way of recording. I've done it before. I should. Never mind. Too late. We got ADV. Yeah. I use OBS and edit. Yeah, you could do screen capture, right? I could have just done screen video capture. So it's always better to, I do admit, it is definitely better to use ADB because when you get it from the source, you get like without any extra artifacting from like screen refresh or transmission to your computer and other things, especially when it comes to animations. All right. Okay. So I guess we'll carry on for a little bit longer if people are interested. So one of the areas that we haven't covered is how to do the this home screen stuff. So let's do that. All right. Did we back to how we were? Yeah, no changes. Cool. All right. Back to our home page. So our home page is the content in the main screen. So this part of main screen, the bottom navigation, but the rest is part of home screen. Home page, sorry. And in home page, here's our promotional carousel, slivers. Then we have sliver top selling. And we started to do this. And this is where it all fell down before. And the reason why we had to approach it this way was because we didn't have that sliver cross-axis group. And I want to refactor this. So we'll still keep sliver top selling on the top level, but we had to go to the box adapter because we couldn't put our row, our heading, and oops, what have I done? We couldn't put our heading and the items underneath and have them recycle nicely. Let's say this was 6, 8, I don't know. But for the moment, I think refactoring this could be nice. And then we can also use the new sliver cross-axis, what was it? Constrainment stuff to do all this. So we don't have to do all this row malarkey. Okay, cool. Let's do that. All right. So let's refactor this in here. So the sliver fill remaining was just to suddenly get like a progress indicator on the screen without it jumping around. Sliver main axis group. Okay, so we have our group, and then inside our group, we do want a sliver to box adapter. Well, actually, we don't. Do we need one? Ooh. Well, we definitely do sliver padding to replace this. And then that's going to want a sliver as its child, and in that case, we're going to sliver to box adapter right now, at least, because content heading is a box. Maybe we can make that a nice sliver later, but this is fine. Okay, so that essentially replaces this section here. Sure, speak if you want to chat.
Hi, Sam. I wanted to ask you what we exactly want to achieve here.
So right now, this is not using slivers. So this entire component is using the render model, which means that when stuff scrolls off screen, it doesn't get it will get recycled as one whole piece. So all four of these elements have to be scrolled off screen before the memory is freed.
Okay.
Right. So ideally, you want slivers, that slices almost horizontally here of content that can be recycled, and that's what we saw when we went to with that bug that we just found. When I scrolled this off the screen, these two disappeared, but these two remained in the scroll view, and that's because these two are recycled separately from these, which is a nice. Overall, it's not that much different on this as an example, and with 4 items. There's not much performance gain here, right? Like, this is not a big deal. However, when this starts to get really long, or we get more content, or we don't even know how many of those items might be, then it becomes a problem. So the nice way about doing it like this is that it can now we can control how many items are being displayed by the server. For example, we could report down show 4, show 10, and it will just do it and work without us having to do and worry about any sort of lag or slow down the app or memory problems. So it's a kind of it's a nicer way of dealing with it, right? Does that help explain what I'm trying to achieve here? Maybe. All right. Yes.
Okay. So like when item will come on the screen, then it will automatically get expand and then it will get squeezed. Is it like that?
Yes. I mean, that's literally what slivers are there for.
Okay.
All right. So we've got a sliver. Now we need to do a sliver cross-axis group, because what we now want to do is essentially a row. So we want to put our margin of 8 in here. So we have a sliver margin. I think I'll put that in there. If not, we'll add a sliver vertical margin. 8. Actually, what I'm saying is vertical. Oh, we can put it outside. Gosh. Vertical sliver margin. Did I? Yeah. I don't have them in here. All right, time to do it. Common. Yeah, I didn't include them. All right, so time to add them. So we want all these ones here replicated, but for slivers, we say sliver margins. And we're going to prefix them with sliver. I think so. Everything starts with sliver, then it's easier. I'm doing multi-select in your IDE. You should have like a multi-selectability. That's for me, it's the middle mouse button, but you can reprogram it. It's called column select, I think, by default. I think there's some option here, so you can turn it on and off and some keys. Also, you can look in the key mappings of your IDE, right? So you'll have, for those that don't, you can just go into key map or however you do it, and select column. Column selection mode, Alt Shift insert parent as well. Can I search for mouse? I think I can. Yeah. Mouse shortcut. Create rectangular section on mouse drag. There you go. That's what it is, if anyone wants to know. People keep asking me about it, that's all. Right. So now I've done that. There'll still be size boxes, but we want to wrap them in a sliver to box adapter. I think there's probably room here to have a slightly more optimal solution than this, but it works with the built-in widgets. It's not a great problem. There we go. So now the size boxes, which reserve an amount of space, can be used inside of a sliver list. Okay, let's go back to where we were. So now we can do sliver vertical 8, Bosch, and after our group we have 48 and 48 to give us a bit more room. I think that was just to give us a bit more scroll room so you could see it on demo. You know, so when we scroll down, you can see this gap at the bottom. We'll leave it in there for now. All right. Okay, so now we have our cross-axis group. We want to represent what? Do we need cross-axis group? Possibly not. Oh, hang on. Sorry, I'm just thinking. A sliver grid doesn't, we could use a sliver grid, but then we're required to have a fixed aspect ratio. Maybe, maybe not. It certainly would be easier. I'm going to leave it as it is. So we want to take, we want to do a for loop, very similar to what we did before. We have a builder in here so we can like get to item 1 in 2 different statements here. I think let's copy this up and then drop that out. Pop them in here. This obviously, this will break right now. The reason why it will break is because if we're going from slivers all the way down to the box, which is the box model, which is every other type of widget. So we need to actually replace this with a sliver style widget. So in the case of a row, we want sliver cross-axis group. Yep, slivers. Do we care? Guess we can. I don't know if our intrinsic height is actually going to work here. I guess we'll find out. And then in our cross-axis group, we're going to want a sliver horizontal margin 12. I just have a very big feeling it's going to blow up in my face, but we'll try it. This is what we're here for. Try out these new things. Okay, now we have our expanded. So this is going to be a flex of 1. And I wonder if this, yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out. Right. Sliver 2 box adapter. So what we could do, just to make our lives a little bit easier, rather than putting sliver to box adapter everywhere, we can go into our product card and make a new stateless class and call it sliver product card. Since we'll be using these in other slivers around for sure. And then we'll just wrap it, right? So this does sliver, sorry, product card. So if you're not sure, like about all this sliver stuff, basically you'll see we've got child. That means it's a box child, and when the widget below it is sliver, that's a sliver child, right? Anyway, item, and we'll just duplicate this across, and then pass those parameters across to item. And what was the other one? Unpressed. All right, so that's just made a little wrapper so that now instead of having to do wrapper each time we want to use it, we can just use the pre-wrapped version essentially like that. All right, so now if I copy this, paste it again, and what was it? We wanted item 2, right? Okay, so we have our 2 products. Then we want our sliver horizontal margin to space it out. All right, that's 1. Now if I grab this, I don't know if we even need the intrinsic height. Let's get rid of it and see how things behave. You can only break. All right, and then this one we want item 1 and then a expanded flex 1, but this has nothing on the inside. We don't have like a sliver horizontal 0. Do we have a sliver? I think I have a sliver empty widget. I do. It's empty sliver. There we go. So this is the idea of doing this, is just reserves the flex weight, like the same as the spacer does. So if there's only 3 items, then the gap left by the last one, it still remains. Otherwise, the bottom one would stretch out to fill the entire width, which would be undesirable. All right. I think sliver vertical, sliver vertical. All right, we're slivers all the way down. Let's restart. Does it blend? It does not blend. It breaks. We are learning. Null check. Oh, did we? Where? Sliver cross-axis group, perform layout. This might be that intrinsic height. I wonder. Let's do wrap with intrinsic height and see if we get a different output. Why not? Nope. Oh. Yeah. No, going to error box. All right, that's interesting. So I think that's because this is trying to use slivers don't have intrinsics. I think this kind of boils down to the same problem that we're seeing before. Let's try just in here putting a intrinsic height around this. Yeah, interesting. You got 1. Why would 1 be different? We busted it. And that's twice as big, so flex is somehow working. Let's get rid of these. Now that's interesting. All right. Oh, didn't I? Oh, you're right. You're right. Thank you. Oh, that was, yeah. All right. That's what happens when you copy paste everyone. Right. Okay, that's good. That's a good sign. Well, it's better. That is interesting. So I'm going to get rid of the intrinsic height. Does it magically work? No, it definitely does not magically work. Wow, wow, wow. All right, so let's have a look here. Oh, hang on. I've done that wrong, haven't I? Look, I've got a cross-axis group and a cross-axis group. That's not going to work. So that's now main axis. Is that right? Feels like it's right. I don't know. Let's find out. Maybe it doesn't change. Saying that, maybe I don't even need the top level. Do you know what? I don't even need this group. Right? Because we have our heading and then we have each of the rows. Our main axis expander is not going to work. So cross-axis group is now the correct. We're learning. Does it behave any different? I have a feeling this intrinsic height stuff. Like the widgets weren't made to have a fixed height. Let's give the widget a fixed height. See how it behaves. See if we get displayed on the screen. I did remove the intrinsic height from it. Let's put that back in and see if. Yeah. So that's good. Well, kind of. We have a little issue. So our horizontal margins for slivers, we actually need another 2 sets of these. So this is, let's be clear about this is sliver main axis horizontal margin, sliver main axis vertical margin. Bit of a mouthful. Well, now we've got this. We didn't have this ability before, right? Cross axis margin and cross axis. And with the cross axis stuff, we actually want to do that. Was it sliver constrained cross axis? And now we should be able to do max extent 4. And I guess we need a child sliver. That's an empty sliver. So these widgets now getting that bit more complicated. It's probably worth having some custom slivers for these to get rid of the added complexity we brought in. That's okay. We can work that one out. Cool. And again, let's do the same thing. Let's grab that. Is everyone still here? Are you still awake?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I got yes. That's brilliant. Right. Empty sliver. All right. So now that's it formatted. Ugh. Anyway. Yeah, definitely feel like there's probably room to have. Or maybe this is it. Hang on a minute. Hang on. Undo. Undo. Let's do a sneaky something. Oh, don't do that. I've got an idea. Let's do stateless sliver cross axis margin. And this is just like a shortcut, right? So we can put that in there and we specify extent. It says max extent, which makes me wonder if this is going to size correctly. We'll find out, I guess. So that would be extent. If not, we can put a size box with the same extent. All right, and then required stuff extent. And now replace these. All right, so we just made that slightly nicer to look at. I thought, but we got trading commas. All right, that format's a little bit nicer, so it's readable. So now, okay, now we have cross axis, blah blah blah. You can now do sliver cross axis horizontal margin 12. Here, 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 here. Sliver main axis. All right, restart. Oh, look at that. It's working. Okay. So we do actually have a kind of bug here. We do. Can we solve it? Okay, so do you see the way that the two product cards here, one is the number is higher than the one on the left? That's because the original had a row with stretch, which meant that this extra space was taken up by a gap in the card, and it kind of looked laid out a bit nicer than this. Which is the kind of reasons why we might want to not have a fixed aspect ratio. So kind of coming back to this, this is still fine. It still works. The solution behind this is actually slightly more complicated. Let me just go. Oh, the new DevTools. DevTools 15, did it say? All right, later. Yeah. All right, let's. Okay, so how do we, if we wanted to, I'm not going to go into this in detail right now. If we wanted to solve it, how would we solve it, right? So the problem here is I'm having to wrap each one of these in intrinsic height. That works because intrinsics are not supported by slivers, right? But there shouldn't be a problem with like laying out a widget and then sizing it to whatever size you want, which but would mean that there was some extra type of sliver that we would have to invoke in terms of this sliver cross-axis group. So we'd now starting to make a custom sliver if we wanted this to be slivers all the way down, right? So at some point you go, well, what is like, this is great, and I'm going to commit this because I feel like it's a worthwhile little escapade just to learn about the new widgets, right? So I'm going to commit this so other people can check this out, and we'll call this trying out new group with from 313. I'll push those, so you can grab them if you want them. I think the answer to this right now is to actually use a sliver grid after all of that. So it has the same effect in that it will recycle correctly, and they would revert to being exactly the same size, and we could have as many as we want. The problem is, if this did want to grow, let's say we wanted something with maybe 3 lines, then suddenly you need to deal with that in a different way inside your layout. The idea behind this right now, yeah, setting the text max line property to 1, sure, but you know what happens when you want to, right? There is actually another way of fixing this, and I did talk about it before. So there's a widget that we're actually missing in the framework that that essentially would solve this. And I think maybe we'll chuck this in. Actually, no, you know, we're going to do that just for the hell of it. It doesn't exist, right? It's max lines. So minimum lines would. Let me have a check about this. Yeah. So let me just make sure I'm thinking about this right. So product card. So with this title text here, we can set max lines to 2, right? And we can also, so that means that if let's change our product test data and make this essentials, actually no, we'll do Ultraboost SNL, whatever it is, right? So let's say Star Wars, blah, testing, blah, 1, 2, 3, I don't know, restart. Hopefully that grabs it. There we go. So 1, 2, 3 is not showing on the screen, right? Because we put max lines in there. If you get rid of max lines, then it pushes down, right, to show more. But there's a limit to this, right? If someone puts in a silly long description, you'll get a horrible looking app. So you need to kind of like weigh up your choices about how you make responsive layouts. So if you do max lines 2, great, but then you also need to make sure that you put a lip size on here. So that's overflow. And this basically is saying, what does the text do when it goes past its boundary? Do you want it to clip, fade? Clip and fade only work if it's constrained. Anyway, ellipsis is kind of normal, and that's the 3 dots to show that it's got more. So if I do that now, you'll see now we have 3 dots. That does take up some of the layout. As you can see, we lose the H, right, that was there before. However, now we do know that the tile did go on for longer and we can't just display it, right? However, we still got this problem over the right-hand side. Okay, when it's not 2 lines, then, and we can't predict it being 2 lines because it depends on the wrapping, right, which depends on the size and the font shape, size and everything else. So how do we get this to always maybe take up two lines and move hoodies down? That's where max lines comes in. So what we can do here is say max lines, I guess. There's no widget for this in the framework, and I think I may just submit this. Definitely something you need in these sorts of situations. I'm trying to remember what other parameters I've used in the past. Anyway, so what we need to do is work out what is the height of a line of text for this widget, right? So if we go to text and we were to go look at the text widget and how it works, this is just me showing the inner workings. Here it is here. It gets the default text style, sets that as the effective text style, and then if you specify the text a style and that style inherits, it merges. If the media query has bold text, then it also merges that with bold text, and then passes over the text scale factor and some other things, right? So what we should be able to do is take this piece here, pop into our widget. So we're doing pretty much the same principle, right? We could definitely provide ability to override the style, right? But we'll make that optional. Oops, style. Style. Okay. And we get the default, we do all the merge. Now we have an effective text style that we can use. And we want to get the font size from that. Or we create a text painter. That would probably be the better approach here. And we want to use the other parameters. I'm just going to grab them all and we're going to remove the ones we don't need. So we need to get the size. And the only way to get size accurately is to tell it to draw the text, essentially, right? So there's certain parameters that are needed by text painter, some are not. And I'm just stealing them all. So our effective text style. Now our data, a capital M. So I don't know if you guys have ever done web development, but you'll see that there's this unit called EM. Well, funny enough, that is the size, the unit size of a capital M in the font. That's the term M. So that's where it comes from, if you wanted to know. It's typesetting. So if we put capital M in there, that kind of gives us a square. That kind of makes sense. It's a reasonable approximation to the line height. Any capital letter would probably do the job for what we need, but fonts differ, right? Once we get this, we can also get the line metrics and get the height of the line from that. But we need a letter or something to render. All right, this has no children. We just want that. Our text alignment is going to come from the default. Our text direction, right, uses directionality. So we need to go quickly look and see if, yeah. So we'll just obtain the default text direction. We could provide overrides for a bunch of this stuff off of maybe like above, and then that way they can be overridden, the behavior. But for the minute, we'll just do exactly what it says and try and match the behavior because we want it to match close to what text would be doing. I mean, if worse comes, I mean, if another practical sense of doing this would be to perhaps alter the framework and add in a max lines sorry, min lines. I just said min lines, haven't I? It's min. Come on, guys, you gotta help me out here. This is min lines. Min line, minimum lines is what we're looking for. Oh, you get me here, guys. Right. So yeah, we'd be adding that parameter to this, but then obviously we couldn't just use that. We would need to PR it back to the framework, have it reviewed, go through process. But this is a nice, you can just work around these things however you want. All right, what else? What are the other parameters we care about? Ellipsis. We don't care about that. So these two parameters don't make any sense for what we're doing. We're going to get the default text scale factor. Max lines was what this was. I guess max lines, min lines would be the same. I don't see a reason why we couldn't override it. We don't even care about that. What I'm talking about. There's not going to be any wrapping. Strut style's fine. Text width basis, we'll bring that in. Text style factor, sure. And don't care about selections. All right, so that is our full set of parameters for our painter. And then basically we need to tell it the painter to lay out based on no constraints. That's like an infinite size, right? So we say it's infinite in width, and this will give us the box size, and then we can go metrics from that. Again, this is going down the rabbit hole, but yeah, people commenting. Right, size. No, sorry, we can get the size of this, but we actually want the metrics, compute line metrics, what we want. And now we have metrics. Finally, we do. We can wrap this. Hang on. Here's how we want to use it. That's the question, right? So, given this title, if we were to accept these parameters, we could forward them onto a text switcher and say text with max lines, or we could just wrap our text widget with min lines. We could wrap this with min lines. Say min lines 2. But the problem with doing this is now we have our text style down here, and we might have to copy it up here, which also isn't desirable. Let's pass over the child because we're going to need that. So I think let's down here. What we're doing is actually doing a size box, height, and we want to calculate our height, and then the child is what we pass across. So we can put this anywhere in the hierarchy, which is really nice. And then our height is going to be metric start first, yeah, and then height. Total height of the line from top edge to bottom edge times min lines. There you go. Right. All right. So now we've done that. If we go in here, if we pull up the style onto our min lines, we can also pass in these two parameters and do something like this. Now there's a little trickery we're going to do here. So let's go back. So we want an optional this dot max lines and this dot overflow. When I copied that out of the text widget, I think it has some stuff around the default parameters for these. Let's have a quick look and see what it does. It was overflow and max lines. All right, let's bring them in. They should be needed, but I'm going to bring them in anyway, just to make certain that things behave as we expect. Why is because it doesn't have overflow because it doesn't do it there, or is it called text overflow? Ellipsis. Yes. Not convinced. All right. Well, anyway, We don't really care about them here. What we're going to do though is wrap our child in a default text style.merge, and then we can then override any one of those parameters that we would be receiving. So style, we can flow down, overflow, we can flow down, and max lines. So instead of having to provide them twice, the widget further down is going to pick that up and use it. Do we care about text direction? Like, it's not going to make a difference to rendering out M. Text direction has to be specified, but it can be null, I think. Text direction are optional, but text and text direction must be non-null before calling layout. Okay, so we do need to have those. We can also hard code this, right? Text direction, because no, you know what? I'm going to leave it because it's good practice, right? Locale, even though just drawing one character. All right, so I think the rest is probably cool. All right, so oh yeah, nullable. Cool. So now we've done that. Restart. And look at that. We now have hoodies next to this on this side, solving the problem because our size box has put this in there. And there's an even better little thing we can do here. So let's add a little extra feature to this. Where's our, what do we call it, min lines? We want an alignment, because that's a very common thing to want to do now. Alignment geometry. Alignment geometry, not just alignment, means that we can do, what do you call it? Right to left, left to right. So that's very important. I think there's alignment geometry that has the start top. Do you know what? That's going to bug me now. Alignment directional, that's the one. So you do alignment directional, and then with alignment directional, you can do end and start if you don't know. So start for left to right would be on the left-hand side, but start on right to left would be the right-hand side. And a lot of people don't realize you should be using this. Whenever you do like alignment and you're doing something that involves like layout of stuff on the screen, you probably want to be using the directional versions so that when the font is gone to say Arabic, it flips around, right? All right. Anyway. We're gonna, well, there you go. We're gonna default ourselves to top start. And then in here, we can put a alignment, I guess, alignment on the content. Line, sorry. And then, and if it's null, can it be null? Can't be null. What's it complaining about? Yeah, I made it nullable because I'm an idiot. There we go. We got it, gave it default value. All right, so restart. And now when it comes to our card, if we want to, we can now add alignment bottom start. And that means this essentials linear should move down one line, right? The correct position. Let's see. Yay. Just do an alignment. And these two take up 2 lines maybe on the bottom. Do you know what? I prefer it when it's above, when it's at the top in terms of this layout, but the option is there. I keep hot restarting. Anyway. All right. How are we doing, people? I think we'll call it here, unless anyone wanted to see something else specific. I think we've learned quite a bit. Let's get rid of that testing discard. Add lines. Oh, we called it max line. Oh, yeah, let's rename that. Does anyone want to say anything specific? If not, we're going to call it inlines. Yeah. I did it again. How do we start? So, all right, so min lines dart, and we're using that. All right. Add min lines widget to help space out product cards titles correctly. Push. All right, no more requests. Well, I hope everyone found that interesting or helpful. Did a little exploration of the Flutter 3.13 Sliver stuff, and we got it working. So that's the main thing.
Simon, for extra session.
Sorry, say again.
Thank you so much for extra session.
Oh yeah, anytime. Don't worry, that's all good. Yeah, and I'll see everyone Saturday. You got a couple of days. It'd be really good to, I think, for the most part, you should try and make sure that you're trying out all of these state management patterns, at least giving each of the packages a go, trying them out, trying to understand them. The repo's there. You can just check out the repo, make a few changes. I'm not saying like implement the entire app with something, but try implementing something with one of these packages so you can understand it a bit better and you're going to learn. But apart from that, cool. I'll see everyone Saturday. All right. Ciao for now.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Bye.
No worries.